You allow him to turn the corner. Mama, there goes that man.
Puts up the shot. It's good. Kyrie Irving.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the First Pick Podcast. Thank you guys so much for clicking play on this week's episode. We're really excited to talk about the NBA. It's NBA opening weekend. Thank you guys so much for clicking and supporting the First Pick Podcast. Remember, the First Pick Podcast is powered by Hooper. Thank you guys so much for powering us. And we really, really appreciate the opportunity you have given us and the platform here. Thank you guys so much. Remember to check out Hooper and the First Pick Podcast across all platforms. We got YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. They're all going to be linked in the description. Thank you guys so much for believing in us. Thank you guys so much for clicking play on our video. Once again, it means the world to us. Last week we didn't have an episode, and this week we're back full force. NBA is also back. Let's overreact to some NBA games. Without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so when I was writing down, I have just full transparency, I have 7 total overreactions that I want to talk about on this week's pod, and we got some contract extensions that we'll get into later. At number 1, Anthony Davis. Is this guy a top 3 MVP depoy? You know, maybe walk with me here. Okay, so Anthony Davis looked phenomenal in the Lakers winning opening night. They haven't won a game opening night since like 2016. Anthony Davis, like 36 points, 12 rebounds, three blocks. Like, this guy looked really good opening night against the defensive player of the year, Rudy Gobert. I think Anthony Davis is poised to have a breakout season, which is weird saying that for a guy that's already in his mid-30s. This is probably prime Anthony Davis. Full transparency, this is what we're getting. This is prime Anthony Davis. And I just don't see a world where he doesn't win this award. Anthony Davis, if the Lakers finish as a top 5 team in the West, a top 5 defense in the NBA, it's a lot to ask for. But I think that's how special of a defensive player Anthony Davis is. In parentheses, I put JJ Redick looks like a great head coach, just because he does. The offense looks like there's a structure to it. They don't look like they're running random sets anymore, where it's just give the ball to LeBron and get out of his way. Or even Anthony Davis and get him out of the way. They look like they're running sets. Their team defense looks good. They have game plans going into games. It's just a great personality. I think that guy is going to thrive as a coach in Los Angeles, just coach in general. Anthony Davis, and I want to talk about the Defensive Player of the Year award, because this award so many times gets like skewed in ways that it should not. So all the sports books, all the major companies have Victor Wembanyama winning this award as the favorite, like clear on favorite. And while he finished second last year, Victor Wembanyama puts up great defensive stats. The best defensive player in the NBA is Anthony Davis. No question about it. He can guard perimeter players. He can guard the post. He gets the defensive numbers. He rebounds well. If Anthony Davis gets faulted for not team success on defense, for the record not being at the top of the West, for winning Defensive Player of the Year, then there should be those same standards held for Victor Wembanyama winning this award. I've seen too many people be comfortable in penciling him in this award because he's going to have a great individual defensive season. But are the Spurs going to finish in the play-in this year? Are they going to finish in the playoffs this year? Is there a world where the Spurs finish above the Lakers? I don't think so. Anthony Davis has the recipe to win this award. But for some reason, parentheses, Victor Wembanyama glaze, we're going to be giving the award to him because we think he deserved it last year, or because he's going to deserve it for the next 10 years plus. I'm just saying, we got to keep it at an even playing field. If Anthony Davis got faulted all those years where he should have won not MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, if Anthony Davis should have gotten the award but he didn't because of X, Y, and Z, then we should hold Victor Wembanyama to those same standards. Because I just don't see it as fair that a guy that Victor Wembanyama is going to get it in his second year, and although he's going to be a phenomenal defensive player throughout his whole career, he's going to win multiple of them. Anthony Davis will have a chance to retire with not a single Defensive Player of the Year under his belt. So I'm like overreacting, but it's the truth. He needs to win one of these major awards. Top 3 MVP, that's probably the overreaction in this statement. But Defensive Player of the Year, that's something that he needs to be in consideration for. We made a TikTok about it. You guys got to show love to that. It's on TikTok, Instagram, everywhere else. Um, Anthony Davis needs to win this award. No ifs, ands, or buts. He needs to finish top two, top one. That's possible. But let us know. Am I overreacting? Am I underreacting? Let us know in the comments. We really appreciate your guys' feedback on this podcast. We want to get you guys more engaged. Tell us what you guys think. Let us know your NBA overreactions in the comments. We really want to talk about them. Number two, the Celtics run the NBA. Woo, that's a tough one. So the Celtics are looking unstoppable as ever, coming off a commanding playoff run, coming off a season where they literally were not getting stopped whatsoever. Their three-pointers look good. They're a really good defensive team. They can create for themselves, and they still don't have Porzingis yet till like January. If that leap of Jason Tatum's aggressiveness comes into play, I don't see a reason why the Celtics are not a top team or the top team in the NBA. They already are, but I just like we're talking like Warriors level dynasty like potential here. These guys can flip a switch like that and they automatically open the game up 20, 30 points. Um, they have that structure. Is that possible? I think that's definitely possible. I don't even think that's an overreaction to say what I'm saying, but for the sake of the video, we're gonna say it's an overreaction. Maybe the overreaction comes when I say that the Celtics could maybe be like that Warriors dynasty. Maybe not the chips in a row or like the star level power, but the dominance it has over the NBA. I think that's true. They can flip the switch whenever they want, and they can command and take control of games whenever they want. And that's something that the NBA needs to look at and like, wow, okay, maybe we should market these guys a lot better. At number three, the Knicks and the T Wolves trade looks questionable. If there's anything that looks questionable about this trade, it's Julius Randle looking out of place in Minnesota. Granted, last game he did really good, and then Ant carried them. I want to say that was against Sacramento. He looked really good. First game he looked really off against the Lakers. That's probably why they lost. Both of these teams swung for the fences. The Knicks needed a center. They got it. They got it, and they got an offensive center that lacks physicalness to him. That makes him tough. And the Wolves went away from their physicalness and they brought in, or they went away from their shooting and brought in a physical guy. Um, Dante DiVincenzo looks like he's still adjusting to the Timberwolves offense. I think at the end of the day, this could be an overreaction just because one of these teams are going to finish in the playoffs, very deep in the playoffs, should I say. They'll finish in the semifinals of the second round. So I'm not gonna say that it looks questionable right now. But I mean, there could be a world where Julius Randle's not happy. Um, the Knicks realize maybe Cat is a power forward, and we need to play him next to Mitch Rob. And Mitch Rob is an injury-prone center. Is that gonna work? That like I don't know. I don't know. I really don't. But that's number three for me. At number four, could the 76ers fall into the plan? I'm recording this episode right now. They're playing the Toronto Raptors. They're losing 84 to 77. Joel Embiid or Paul George have yet to play a game um with them in the regular season. Joel Embiid has not even been playing in the preseason. We got to look at the 76ers as a whole. And I think the 76ers really messed up when they went out and said Joel Embiid is not playing in back to backs. We're gonna be really cautious with him. We're gonna try to get him to the playoffs. And although that should be the ultimate goal, that's not something you go parading to the media about. Why are you doing that? Um, the NBA is gonna be really harsh, maybe on their like punishment. I feel like that's something that you shouldn't say it. I honestly don't know why that came out to the media. Joel Embiid saying that he might not play back to backs for the rest of his career. I understand you want people to get the severity of like your injury history and that you want to be healthy, but the rest of your career, dude, like, come on, don't say that. I think could they fall into the play-in if Joel Embiid doesn't play X amount of games and Paul George is in and out of the lineup? I think it's possible. Tyrese Maxey's a great player. He's gonna get his. Um, when you originally looked at the 76ers offseason, you thought, wow, they brought in a ton of depth. Caleb Martin, they brought in Andre Drummond, Eric Gordon, brought back Kyle Lowry, Jared McCain, Kelly Oubre. They have the pieces, but the East is a lot tougher than it used to be. You need your guys to be out there. And even if they just have two out of those three, I think the play-in is avoidable. But I just think that if they don't lock in, it's easy to slip in these standings nowadays in the NBA because everyone has a chance. The play-in gives every team the chance to, be in the play-in. Like, give them a chance. Give them a chance to get into the postseason. And the 76ers, although I do think prioritizing health is the thing that they need to do at the expense of regular season losses and piling them up is not the way to go because then you're going to throw Joel Embiid into a playing game while he's probably healthy and he can win you that. He's not going to be in that offensive rhythm. At this point, you're just hoping that he can turn it on and off whenever he wants. You can throw him into a game, drop 35 and 15, not playing the 2 games, and then go back and play the same way he's playing in that game that he dropped 35. It just makes no sense to me. And Paul George, I mean, the injury history is there. All hope to him that he gets better and Joel Embiid, these injuries can be a thing of the past, but it's something real that they need to talk about. It's something real that's happening in Philly. And if they don't lock in again, it's slipping in these standings. If you have a bad month, it catches up to you when you're standings watching in April and hoping that you can jump X team in the standings, but you lost to them in a random game in November, right? Like these games matter. And the 76ers are failing to see that just because they think they have the big three and that they can play whenever they want. Um, but let us know in the comments. What do you think? I mean, honestly, are the 76ers a playing team? Are they a playing team? Are they a top 6 team? What do you guys think their ceiling is right now based on everything we know as of this moment? At number 5, is this the most mid rookie class since the Anthony Bennett draft? I mean, Anthony Bennett draft produced Giannis, Victor Oladipo, so can't really say that. Is there a Giannis in this class? Is there even a Victor Oladipo in this class? Um, these guys are not having the best debuts. Dalton Connect had a great preseason. He had a game where he went off against the Suns. But I want to say the best debut was Yves Mises from the Pelicans. He had 3 blocks. I think it was 12 points, couple boards. He looked pretty good. And for a team that needs a center, he might be getting some of those minutes in there. But that's a guy that was picked in the 20s. These top prospects aren't looking good. Alexander Sarr, I mean, 2 points. Risa Shea, 7 points. Um, these are all their opening night stats. I mean, full transparency, I'm not expecting them to come in 20 points per game like the epic opening night we got from Derek Lively and Victor Wembanyama, right? Like that was a really, really good opening night. And even in the past, the games we've seen, but there's nothing about this class that speaks like all-star. I mean, there's some of these guys that speak starter. Like you see their games and you're like, okay, yeah, that can be a starter. Or that guy can play a pivotal role in a team. But like star, all star, I don't. I've yet to see that from this class. But yeah, so then you look at this rookie class and you start to question like, what is their ceiling? Can they become all stars? Can they become pivotal players on a team? I think I mentioned this in a previous podcast episode. I don't see that in anyone's class or any rookie in this class. I just don't see it. Maybe Dalton Connect can be a guy that averages 20 points per game in his NBA career. I mean like a season, not like his whole career. Like a season, he could average it a season. Reach Shepard, maybe. But yeah, most mid rookie class since you guys let me know in the comments. I said since the Giannis class 2013, maybe. But I mean, all up for debate. This class, I don't. Or let me know. Am I sleeping? Is there someone that can be really good in this year's class? I don't know. I don't have the answer for that right now, which is why we're overreacting. The most mid class since 2013. Am I right, guys? All right, number 6. OKC looks poised to make a deep playoff run. Last year, we said the same thing, and they got bounced in the second round, which is okay for a team that never made the postseason before. This year, they toyed with the Denver Nuggets. Like, it was not even close. The Denver Nuggets, which we're going to talk about the next bullet point here, looked lost. And OKC was the main. Chet Holmgren, if he can take a leap to 20 plus per game scorer with his blocks and his rebounds, that is an all-star level guy next to Shea at the second option for this team that can run either center or power forward and has a Victor Wembanyama-esque build to him. He's mobile. I don't know, man. OKC looks really, really good, and if they can put these pieces together, they lost Isaiah Hardenstein, so they're not even running Hardenstein in the lineup. Caruso is in the lineup, and he's making a really good impact. Aaron Wiggins had a really solid debut last night. Um, I think OKC is definitely a team that can make a deep playoff run. There's a notion with young teams that they have to lose multiple times in order to get deep into the playoffs and reach that finals appearance. OKC has the tools to reach a finals appearance. J Dub, Chet, Caruso, Hardenstein, Dort. It's a deep team, man. And the one thing that kills the West is depth. Like all those top teams have depth. And OKC is at the top of that with the best depth in the NBA, probably. OKC, if the matchups favor them well, they have all the tools to go to the finals. They can play big, they can play small ball, they can run multiple wing defenders. They have their star guard that plays defense. I think OKC is looking to have a really, really good year this year. Another probable one seed. Matchups will look a lot better for them just because of the acquisitions they've had over the summer. They'll look really, really good come playoff time. At number 7, we're going to spend some time on this. The Denver Nuggets championship window is closed. And I want to talk about it because I think a big reason for that is the Nuggets being cheap. You lose Bruce Brown, you lose KCP, Jeff Green, Reggie Jackson. Names Reggie Jackson and Jeff Green, people probably hear those names and are like, who cares that they left? Those are pivotal role pieces. We just talked about OKC and their depth and every single player allowing them to play a certain type of basketball. Denver is now relying on their youth to take that next step up. They are no longer just hoping that Peyton Watson can maybe become a three-point shooter or can maybe become something on offense. No, they need him to become something on offense if they want this team to be good. Christian Braun is no longer a young and promising 3 and D guard in this league. He's the starting shooting guard for them. The leap has already needed to be taken, and although he shows spurts of where he's really good, there's times where he disappears on the court. Jamal Murray, there is no more only showing up X or so amount of games. You need to show up every game. I mentioned this earlier when I talked about games mattering, for the 76ers, the Eastern Conference. The West is even more unforgiving. The Western Conference, if you have a 5-game losing streak, that will haunt you in April when you're looking in the standings and you're like, damn, maybe I could have gotten that game back in October. These games are extremely important for the Denver Nuggets. They need to win these games. And the fact that they're relying on their bench that's made up of an aging Russell Westbrook, Dario Saric, Peyton Watson, it's not looking good. Russell Westbrook looked really rough out there. He was rushing, his shot wasn't falling, and that's kind of been the case for Russell Westbrook the past couple of years on his team. He doesn't look under control. His shot's not there. I think Russell Westbrook is nearing the end of his career. And I don't want to say that because MVP Russell Westbrook holds a special place in every baller's heart. Seeing the triple double season that he had was special. But I'd rather Westbrook go out on somewhat of a high note than risk tarnishing his legacy and like trying to win a chip but looking bad while doing it. I've never been a believer in a guy winning a championship but then not contributing. Like, to me, I want them to contribute so that they can say that they got that chip. But again, that's up for debate in the comments. I know some people think that a chip is a chip, so it doesn't matter. They were on the team. Patrick McCall, 3-time three-time NBA championship mentioned right there. But yeah, so I mean, is this an overreaction? Is this an underreaction? I think Denver honestly finished their run. And I think they scared themselves because they got scared, and this is gonna be a great segue to the next segment. They paid Aaron Gordon a really, really big contract. And in the risk of losing or the fear of risk of losing him, that's why they paid him. And if anything, that's not what should happen. Yes, Aaron Gordon is pivotal to that team, and losing him, that would have been the nail in the coffin for sure. But you're paying him out of fear of losing him because you've lost guys that are important to you. First game of the season, Michael Malone already saying, we lost KCP. That's a 40% 3-point shooter. Nikola Jokic, we're a streaky shooting team. Like, it's first game of the season, guys, and we're already throwing each other under the bus. It's kind of crazy. Um, but yeah, Denver reminds me a lot of that Phoenix Suns team to a lesser extent when Phoenix had a really good year. And then they went all in and they brought in 3 point guards and then they went back to mediocrity. Um, Denver at the top of the basketball world, they had depth, they had an MVP, they had a good number 2 guy. And now you're looking around like, what happened? Jamal Murray is inconsistent. Let's just keep it like that. He hasn't taken that next leap. Um, Michael Porter Jr. also hasn't taken that leap. They rely heavily on their depth, and their depth is really thin this year. So if they're gonna come in and not play to a certain level every night, and they're a sub 500 team or a 500 team, or they're only 2 or 5 games above 500, it could look rough for Denver. It could maybe even be a first round exit, even a playing spot for Denver. Not because I think they're gonna be terrible, just because I think every other team in the West is gonna be really good. And yeah, that's my overreaction so far. You guys let me know. Am I overreacting, underreacting? Let us know across all platforms. What you think? So I want to transition quickly to this next segment. Everyone got a bag. It was contract extension for the rookies deadline, and a couple highlight players. Trey Murphy got a bag, 30 M's a year for the next 4 years. Trey Murphy is solidifying himself in this rotation, even though he's injured right now. And Trey Murphy kind of has an injury history, but we're not going to get into that right now. Does this mean Brandon Ingram's on the move? Trade deadline season, Brandon Ingram's out of there. Still hasn't agreed on a contract extension. Doesn't look like it's going to agree to one anytime soon. Is Brandon Ingram out of there? Trey Murphy the replacement? Trey Murphy, I mean, the ideal 4 or 3 to put next to Zion. Shoot the lights out, uber athletic, plays good defense. And he averaged 20 points a game per season. I don't think so. I don't really, when I see Trey Murphy, I don't see a 20 point per game scorer. But the Pelicans are gonna pay him like one, so they're gonna give him the opportunity to. Next is 2 Rockets, Jalen Green and Alperen Şengün, winning some massive contract extensions, and both of them earn it. Jalen Green's more specifically is catered like a team friendly, but also him. It's a very rare win-win contract extension. Last year's still good money, gives the Rockets flexibility, makes Jalen Green prove that that leap that he took last year was not a fluke and that he's a for real efficient 24 point per game scorer. If that's true, then they'll get an extension done beyond that. Sengun looked amazing in the opener, and the Rockets are a team that has depth. Um, that's could be a reason why they didn't want to pay Jalen Green those 5 year max extension because they have guys that they know they can sub in there and they can maybe develop into a 20 point per game scorer. Off the top of my head, I think Reed Shepard can. He's a great shooter. He's undersized, but he's a good shooter. He makes, plays good defense. That's a nice 2 guard. Amen Thompson, a guy that maybe he's not going to average 20 a game, but he'll average 15 to 16, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, couple steals. I think the Rockets are in a great position right now. I think they have a chance to finish top 8 in the Western Conference, if I'm being fully transparent. And Jalen Johnson for the rebuilding Atlanta Hawks, even though if I'm going to check the score right now, they might have already won. Let me check this out real quick. Atlanta Hawks, they're winning. The Charlotte Hornets, they can move. Oh, now it's 99-93. 2-0 maybe? Still too early, obviously. This is why we're overreacting to everything. But Jalen Johnson, $30 million a year for a guy that is poised to win most improved. He's gonna average 16 to 18 points per game. Good 3 point shot, good defense, uber athletic. Jalen Johnson as the number 2 next to Trey Young. I'm not fully bought in on it. Is Jalen Johnson a top 15 power forward, small forward in the NBA? I don't think so. But the Hawks sure do think so, and they're gonna take it to the grave, and they're gonna be paying him this money. So again, these are just my 2 cents of everything that's been happening so far. Remember, if you guys love what you're hearing, make sure to hit us with a like, a subscribe, share it with your friend. First Pick Podcast is available everywhere: YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever else you hear your podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in on this week's episode of the First Pick Podcast. I want you guys to give me some ideas of what to talk about in the upcoming pods. So make sure to leave a comment. Make sure to tag a friend. Let them give us a suggestion. We're really excited about where we can take the First Pick podcast to. The NBA is back. We're going to have regular episodes every Saturday. So make sure to keep an eye out on those. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, everywhere. We're going to fit all those in the description down below. Thank you guys so much. This has been Hooper Manny. Peace.
You allow him to turn the corner. Mama, there goes that man.
Puts up the shot. It's good. Kyrie Irving.